Greetings and welcome to week 14. We're going to begin this week with a story. I have a story to tell. When I was living in Costa Rica, my second year there, I was invited by one of my students, a kid named Alexander Villalobos, to go to Earth University in just outside of San Jose to see a speech. And the keynote speaker for the graduation of Earth was somebody who I had grown up being terrified of. And so it was a special, experience for me to get to meet this person and to shake his hand. The person who I'm speaking of is Mikhail Gorbachev, who, when I was a kid, and this is no joke, growing up in the States, there was a real fear in my community and in my head, really, of nuclear war. And I thought the odds were pretty good that my life would end, or at least my life would be dramatically altered by a nuclear attack by the Soviet Union. The fear was real, and it was something that I'm not sure that you kids deal with today. I don't know what you would fear as I feared the Soviet Union. And at that time, in 84, 85, 86, Mikhail Gorbachev came onto the scene and was the leader of the Soviet Union. So we all know the history. We know that the Berlin Wall fell, and we know that the Soviet Union disintegrated, and we know that the chances of all-out nuclear war are very slim today. But at that time, you couldn't even imagine that the Soviet Union would just fall apart in the way that it did. And so it seemed at times that conflict was inevitable. And I was young, and I was scared. I was scared of the Soviet Union, and the face of the Soviet Union was Mikhail Gorbachev. So in 1999, I guess it was 2000. In 2000, going to see him speak, and it was such an unbelievable moment for me because I came face to face with this guy, this man that I had grown up fearing tremendously and thinking, and we were taught that the Soviet Union was really the epitome of evil. Ronald Reagan calling it the evil empire. And so there I am face to face with this guy, and then listening to him speak and seeing him make people laugh and seeing him interact and eat dinner. It was a great lesson for me about human beings and about humanity and about the enemy. So I just wanted to begin this week with that story because it was a profound moment in my life, but it speaks to something else, and it speaks to the idea that in the 80s, and certainly before that, there was a fear, and people lived with the fear of nuclear holocaust, if you will. And so we don't have that anymore. But this week 14, is spent, or will be spent, discussing the creation of nuclear weapons and the proliferation, and how nuclear weapons spread from being just something that the United States had to something now that 9 countries have around the world. And then we'll take a look at, although we don't fear an all-out nuclear exchange between the United States and the Soviet Union, fears have become different. We're afraid, terrified of Al-Qaeda getting nuclear capabilities and being able to use those capabilities in an attack of some sort. We fear rogue states like Iran or North Korea controlling the bomb, having the missile technology to launch it towards the United States or towards Europe. So these fears are real and they're there, but they, in my estimation, are not equal to the fear that I felt growing up as a kid. And so we're going to debate some questions this week. Did the advent of nuclear weapons make the world a safer place? Would the Soviet Union and the United States gone to war at some point through the Cold War, if not for the fear of nuclear weapons and the idea of mutually assured destruction? Have nuclear weapons ended Great War or Great Power War? If there would have been nuclear weapons in 1914, would that have stopped Germany and Russia and Austria-Hungary and France and then the British to react the way they did over the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo? I don't know. Good questions. Also, I wonder, what do you fear? my fear I've already explained growing up. Is there anything that you see in your life from a geopolitical standpoint that causes you fear, that you worry about as much as I worried about a nuclear exchange with the Soviet Union? In that light, we are going to do our current affairs on Russia. And there's a lot of talk these days about the resurgence of Russia, about Vladimir Putin and his role in Russia. Is he a new Joseph Stalin? Is Russia now a new Soviet Union? Are we heading that way? And if so, what will that do with relations with the West and with the United States? Are we headed towards a new Cold War? In that scenario, what role does China play? I mean, there are all kinds of interesting things that we're going to dive into this week. After this week, we just have week 15, 16, and 17, and then we are done. I encourage you, keep working hard, keep esforzando, and let's end this semester, which for me has been wonderful and informative and inspiring in a lot of ways. Let's end it strong. Okay? So have a good week 14. I'll be in my office if you need me. Take care. Have a good week.